Hello and welcome back to Early Years Explorers, the podcast where we dive into magical, messy and meaningful world of early childhood education. I'm your host, Afaf Zaidan, and today we're talking about something that lies at the heart of everything we do in the early years: social and emotional development. If you're a parent or a teacher, this episode will give you both insights and practical strategies to support children as they learn about themselves, their feelings, and their relationships. So without further ado, let's get into it. Hi, and thanks for joining me. Now let's start with the why. Why social emotional development matters. In early years, children aren't just learning the alphabet or numbers. They're learning something far more important than any academic milestone. They're learning how to manage big feelings, how to share, even when it's their favorite toy. That's a hard one. How to wait patiently, which is really harder than quantum physics for some children. And how to express themselves safely without throwing blocks across the room. So I'll give you an example. I once had a child who clung to his mother every single morning and cried the second she left. And honestly, there were some mornings that I felt like joining him. But with consistency, gentle reassurance, and a clear goodbye routine, he slowly became confident enough to join the rest of the class. And eventually, he was even excited about it. That small but powerful shift from fear to trust is social and emotional growth in action. Research shows that children with strong social emotional skills are more engaged learners and build stronger relationships in the classroom. If you're a parent tuning in, think of social emotional skills as the glue that helps children stick with challenges when things get tricky and would help them connect with others when they really need a friend. Without that glue, everything else in learning just it kind of just falls apart, to be honest. Now, let's dive into the building blocks of social emotional learning. Think of these as the ABCs of feelings and friendships. There's 5 key skills that help children thrive. The first one is self-awareness. Now, I'll never forget the child who looked at me very seriously one day and said, "I'm sad because my block tower fell." Now, that's not just sadness. That's self-awareness. He was naming his feelings and connecting them to an event. By building this and asking simple questions like, how do you feel when your toy doesn't work the way that you want it to? This gives children the words for those big feelings swirling inside of them. Plus, you get to hear all about their tiny triumphs and mini meltdowns, which in all honesty can be equal parts entertaining and enlightening. The next one is self-regulation. This is a classic. I had a child who used to shout whenever she got frustrated, and I mean full-on drama queen, the kind that makes you wonder if the fire alarm is about to go off. But with practice in bubble breathing, pretending to blow big, slow bubbles, she learned to pause, take a breath, and then rejoin the play. And here's the thing. We model this without even realizing it. Think about it. What's the first thing you do when you're stressed? You take a deep breath, right? Children notice that, and 9 times out of 10, they copy you. Sometimes in the most unexpected and hilarious moments. That brings us to the next one. Social awareness. One of my favorite memories of a child noticing a friend crying and quietly fetching them a tissue without being asked. That's priceless. That's social awareness. It's recognizing others' feelings and responding with kindness. We always encourage this by asking questions like, how do you think Hamad feels when you take his toy? It's like giving children's empathy muscles a workout. So once children are socially aware, we get to see relationship skills in action. If you've ever watched block play, you know it's either magical teamwork or complete chaos. Negotiating who gets which block can be intense. But it's also where children learn to share, compromise, and realize that they can't always be the boss. And that's a tough one. We build relationship skills with simple turn-taking games, like rolling a ball back and forth, or even deciding who gets to wash their hands first before snack time. Trust me, that one can spark a whole new level of negotiation. And finally, responsible decision-making. Here's a proud teacher moment. I had a child who walked up to the slide in our indoor play area. He saw one of his friends already climbing the ladder, and instead of pushing in, he waited his turn. That's responsible decision-making in action. We encourage that same skill by giving children small choices every single day. Do you want to eat your apple or your banana first? Or would you like to draw or play with blocks? Every little decision builds confidence and prepares them for bigger choices later on. Now, research backs this up. Denham and Burton found that preschoolers who practice these skills are not only more resilient, but also more socially competent as they grow. So every please wait moment, every let's take a breath practice, and every how do you feel conversation adds up. Sure, some days it feels like wrangling emotions is a full-time circus act. But the payoff? Watching children grow into confident, caring, capable little humans, that's absolutely worth it. Now this brings us to, what does this actually look like in practice? See, social emotional learning isn't a separate lesson. It's woven into daily life. It's in the stories we read, the games we play, and even those who had the toy first moments and debates that happen about 100 times a day. In my class, we often use puppets like Roo the kangaroo. Roo might say, "I feel nervous to try something new." And you'd be amazed. Suddenly the children all want to share what makes them nervous too. Puppets create this safe stage where big feelings don't feel so scary. Plus, in all honesty, it's way easier for a child to admit something to a kangaroo puppet than to an adult staring straight at them. Stories work in that same way. Take the colour monster. When children see emotions sorted into colourful jars, one might proudly announce, "I'm in the yellow jar today." And just like that, they found a way to name their feelings. Personally, I love those moments because who doesn't want to know whether today's mood is blue and stormy or yellow and sunshine? And then there's The Hands Are Not for Hitting. That book is gold. I'll pause for a while reading and ask, what else can we do with our hands? The answers range from sweet hugs to practical we draw, to the downright funny, one child once shouted, "Tickle daddy's feet." That's the beauty of it. Children start to see that their hands can create, connect, and comfort. Of course, playtime is its own classroom. When two children argue over a toy instead of swooping in a referee, I'll ask, how can you both play with this together? The solution can be a genius response or a total nonsense one. But either way, they're learning problem solving, compromise, and patience. Now, research tells us that when adults model and guide these everyday moments, children's self-control and cooperation skills improve dramatically. So those tiny daily interactions, whether it's Roo the kangaroo, a colourful monster, or a tug of war over blocks, they're all actually shaping big life skills. Now this brings us to the homeschool connection. The best outcomes really do happen when teachers and parents team up. Think of it like tag team wrestling, but with less spandex and more juice boxes. I'll give you an example. One mother told me her daughter came home after school and we had a second step lesson and she said, "I'm frustrated." Now this was the same girl who used to scream at the top of her lungs whenever she didn't get her way. Do you remember the one that I was telling you? The kind of scream that makes you check your windows to see if they're still intact? That's the girl. But this time, instead of exploding, she found a new word. And with that word came power. She could explain instead of explode. That's social emotional growth in action. This is why it's so important to share classroom strategies with parents. Things like the bubble breathing, the calm corners, or even using puppets. When we keep the dialogue open and share what's working with parents, they can mirror this at home. And when children see the same approach in both places, the skills really do stick. They know that we're actually working together. Now, Harvard's Center on Developing Child reminds us that nurturing adults' relationships are the single most important factor in helping children regulate emotions and build resilience. The translation to this? Whether it's at school or at home, the way we connect with children matters more than any fancy toy or elaborate lesson. So when teachers and parents are on the same page, children don't just learn to breathe through the tough stuff, they thrive. Isn't that what we all want? A child who can say, I'm frustrated, instead of reenacting a scene from a horror movie. Now, in this last part, I want to give you some practical tips. So we're going to wrap this up with 5 simple takeaways you can use right away. Whether you're in the classroom or at home, think of these as your emotional first aid kit. The first one, be the calm in the storm. When a child throws a block across the room, your reaction sets the tone. If you stay calm, speak gently, and keep your voice steady, you're showing them how to regulate. If you match their energy with frustration, well, let's just say you'll end up with 2 tantrums instead of 1. The next one, make emotions visible. Use posters, mirrors, or even play. Show me a happy or sad or angry face. Sometimes children just need a mirror or a monster face game to figure out what their feelings are. And parents, yes, pulling funny faces in the bathroom mirror counts as SEL practice too. Model empathy. It's really as simple as saying, let's check if our friend is okay. Or, I see that you're sad. Would you like a hug? These small moments are huge lessons. Children don't learn empathy from lectures. They learn it by watching you. Build consistency. Routines are magic. I can't stress this one enough. In school, it might be the same hello song every morning. At home, it could be a steady bedtime and morning routine. Security starts with predictability, even if it sometimes feels boring to us as adults. Children love this, by the way. They love boring. It makes them feel safe because they know what to expect. Celebrate progress. When a child uses words instead of hitting or shares with a friend, even if it's just once, celebrate it. A little high five, a smile, or a wow, you did it, goes a long way. Progress in social emotional learning is less about giant leaps and more about the baby steps that add up. Because at the end of the day, emotional growth isn't a one-time milestone. It's an ongoing process. And when we create supportive, consistent environments, whether it's at home or at school, we're giving children the tools to grow into kind, resilient, and confident humans. And really, what's better than that? So whether you're guiding a whole class or tucking your little one into bed at night, remember, social and emotional development is the foundation for everything else children will learn. When we help them name feelings, build empathy, and solve problems, we're not just teaching them for today. We're giving them the tools for the rest of their life. Thank you for tuning in to Early Years Explorers. If you've enjoyed today's episode, share it with a colleague or a fellow parent. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Until next time, Keep exploring, keep connecting, and remember, every emotion is a learning opportunity.